Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.
The minister replied, I shall surely answer your question, O lady, for that to which all your questions refer to is the Supreme Self. That Self is subtler than even space. Since it has no name and cannot be described, and neither the mind nor the senses can reach it or comprehend it, it is pure consciousness. The entire universe exists in the consciousness that is atomic, even as a tree exists within the seed. But then, the universe exists as consciousness and does not exist as the universe. That consciousness exists, however, because such is the experience of all, and since it alone is the self of all. Since it is, all else is. That self is empty like space, but it is not nothingness. Since it is consciousness, it is, yet because it cannot be experienced by the mind and senses, it is not. It being the self of all, it is not experienced by anyone. Though one, it is reflected in the infinite atoms of existence, and hence appear to be many. This appearance is, however, unreal, even as bracelet is an imaginary appearance of gold, which alone is real. But the self is not unreal. It is not a void nor nothingness. For it is the self of all, and it is the very self of one who says it is, and of one who says it is not. Moreover, its existence can be experienced indirectly, just as the existence of camphor can be experienced by its fragrance. It alone is the self of all as consciousness, and it alone is the substance that makes the world appearance possible. In that infinite ocean of consciousness, whirlpools known as three worlds arise spontaneously and naturally, even as whirlpools are caused by the very nature of the running water. Because this consciousness is beyond the reach of the mind and the senses, it seems to be a void. But since it can be known by self-knowledge, it is not a void. On account of the individuality of consciousness, I am you and you are me. But the indivisible consciousness itself has become neither I nor you. When the wrong notion of you and I are given up, there arises the awareness that there is neither you nor I, nor anything. Perhaps it alone is everything. The self, being infinite, moves not though moving, and yet is forever established in every atom of existence. The self does not, nor does it ever come, for space and time derive its meaning from the consciousness alone. Where can the self go when all this is within it? If a pot is taken from one place to another, the space within it does not move from one space to another, for everything is forever in space. The self, which is the nature of pure consciousness, seems to be inert and insentient when it is apparently associated with inertia. In infinite space, this infinite consciousness has made infinite objects appear. Though all this seems to have been done, such effect being a mere fancy, nothing has been done. Hence, it is both consciousness and inertia, the doer and the non-doer. The reality in fire is this self or consciousness, yet The self does not burn, nor it is burnt. It is a reality in all and infinite. It is the eternal light which shines in the sun, the moon, and the fire, but independent of them. It shines even when these have set. It illuminates all from within all. It alone is the intelligence that indwells even the trees, plants, and creepers, and preserves them. That self or infinite consciousness is, from the ordinary point of view, the creator, the protector, and the overlord of all. And yet, from the absolute point of view, in reality, being the self of all, it has no such limited roles. There is no world independent of this consciousness. Hence, even the mountains are in the atomic self. In it arises the fantasies of a movement and of an epoch, and there appears to be time scales. Even as objects are seen in dream, they appear to be real at that time. Within the twinkling of an eye, there exists an epoch. Even as a whole city is reflected in a small mirror, such being the case, how can one assert the reality of either duality or non-duality? This atomic self or infinite consciousness alone appears to be a movement or an epoch, near and far, and there is nothing apart from it. And these are not mutually contradictory in themselves. As long as one sees the bracelet as a bracelet, it is not seen as gold. But when it is seen that bracelet is just a word and not the reality, then gold is seen. Even so, when the whole world is assumed to be real, the self is not seen. But when this assumption is discarded, consciousness is realized. It is the all, hence real. It is not experienced, hence unreal. What appears to be is but the jugglery of Maya, which creates a division in consciousness into subject and object. It is as real as a dream city. It is neither real nor unreal, but a long-standing illusion. It is the assumption of division that creates diversity, right from the creator Brahma down to the little insect. Just as in a single seed, the diverse characteristics of the tree remains at all times, even so, this apparent diversity exists in the self at all time, but as consciousness. Karkati said, I am delighted with your minister's answers, O king. Now I would like to hear your answers. The king said, Your questions, O noble lady, relate to the eternal Brahman, which is pure existence. It is known when the mind stuff is rid of all movement of thought. The extension and withdrawal of its manifestation are popularly regarded as the creation and dissolution of the universe. It is expressed in silence when the known comes to an end, for it is beyond all expression. It is the extremely subtle middle between the two extremes, and the middle itself has two sides. As a diversity of the universe, it seems to be divided in itself, but truly it is undivided. When this Brahman wishes, wind comes into being, though that wind is nothing but pure consciousness. Similarly, when sound is thought of, there is a fanciful projection of what sound like sound. That supreme, subtle, atomic being is all and is nothing. By its omnipotence, all this appears to be. This self can be attained by 100 ways and means, yet when it is attained, nothing has been attained. it is a supreme self, yet it is nothing. One roams in this forest of samsara or repetitive history till there is a dawn of that wisdom which is able to dispel the root ignorance in which the world appears to be real. But the truth is that it is the infinite consciousness that perceives the universe within itself through its own power known as Maya. Though the self is extremely subtle and atomic and of the essential nature of pure consciousness, by it the entire universe is wholly pervaded. This omnipresent being, by its very existence, inspires the world appearance to dance to its tunes. That which is thus subtler than 100th part of the tip of a hair is yet greater than the greatest because of its omnipresence. The light of self-knowledge alone illuminates all experience. It shines by its own light. This inner light appears to be outside and to illuminate external objects. The other source of light are indeed non-different from the darkness of ignorance and only appear to shine. The inner light of consciousness shines for even within and without day and night. Mysteriously, it illuminates the effects of ignorance without removing the darkness of ignorance. Within the atomic space of consciousness, there exist all the experiences, even as within a drop of honey, there are the subtle essences of flowers, leaves, and fruits. From the consciousness, all experiences expand. From the experiencing is the sole experiencer, which is consciousness. Indeed, all this infinite consciousness alone is all this, and all the hands and eyes are its own. Though, being extremely subtle, it has no limbs. In the twinkling of an eye, this infinite consciousness experiences an epoch within itself, even as in the course of a brief dream, one experiences youth and old age, and even death. All these objects which appear in consciousness are indeed non-different from the consciousness itself. Therefore, though the self is neither doer nor the experiencer of the experiences, it is a doer of all actions and the experiencer of all experiences. There is nothing apart of it. Within the atom of infinite consciousness, the doership and the experiencer are inherent. The world, however, has never really been created, nor does it disappear. It is regarded as unreal only from the relative point of view. From the absolute point of view, it is non-different from the infinite consciousness. Sages only speak of the inner and outer, which are but words with no corresponding substance. It is meant to instruct the ignorant. The seer himself remains unseen, sees himself, and the seer does not become an object of consciousness. The seer is a sight only, and when the latent psychic impressions have ceased, the seer regains its pure being. When the external object is imagined, a seer has been created. If there is no subject, there is no object either. Without the Father, there is no Son. It is the subject that becomes the object. There is no object, even as is the Son that makes a man the Father. However, because the subject is pure consciousness, he is able to conjure up the object. This cannot be the other way round. The object does not give birth to the subject. Therefore, the seer alone is real, the object being hallucination. Gold alone is real. The bracelet is a name and form. As long as the notion of bracelet lasts, The pure gold is not apprehended, and as long as the notion of object persists, the division between the seer and the seen also persists. But just as because of the consciousness in the bracelet, gold realizes its goldliness, the subject, manifesting as the object, realizes subjectivity, which is the consciousness. One is the reflection of the other. There is no real duality. The subject exists because of the object, and the object is but a reflection of the subject. Duality cannot be if there is one alone. And where is the need of the notion of unity if one alone exists? When thus real knowledge is gained by the means of right inquiry and understanding, only that remains which is not expressible in words. Division is not contradicting unity. All this speculation concerning unity and diversity is only to overcome sorrow, which is beyond all this, is the truth, the Supreme Self. Vasishtha said. After listening to these wise words of the king, Karkati became tranquil, and her demonical nature left her. She said to them, O wise men, you are both fit to be worshipped by all and to be served by all, and I have been thoroughly awakened by a holy company. One who enjoys the company of enlightened men does not suffer in this world, even as one who holds a candle in his hand does not see darkness anywhere. At the king's request, Karkati became a charming young woman and lived as his guest. Every night, she resumed her demonical form and consumed the criminals and sinners sent to her by the king. During the day, she continued to be a charming woman. I told you the story because I remembered her questions and the king's answers. In essence, even as the ramification of the tree extends from the seed in which there is no such diversification, the universe of diversity extends from the infinite consciousness. O Rama, by merely listening to my words, you will be enlightened. There is no doubt in it. Know that the universe has arisen from Brahman, and it is Brahman alone. In the scriptures, words have been used in order to facilitate the imparting of instruction. Cause and effect, the self and the Lord, differences and non-differences, knowledge and ignorance, pain and pleasure, all these pairs have been invented for the instruction of the ignorant. They are not real in themselves. As long as words are used to denote a truth, duality is inevitable. However, such duality is not the truth. All divisions are illusory. With this, we finish today's chapter. See you again.